What's up, Overwatchers? This is Matrym here. Over the past couple of days, I've been seeing a lot of talk on social media about the NGE Winter Premiere Day 1 final between Kingdom and Congarno. If you guys haven't had a chance to check it out, I really recommend it. I enjoyed it a lot. It seems like a lot of the community did as well. But it left a lot of questions for people that haven't been following the scene super close, like, who the hell are these teams? Where the fuck did they come from, and how come people hadn't heard of them before? Well, they've been here for a while now, but they're just now entering the scene in what's being called the second wave of professional Overwatch teams. And I know it's kind of a weird way to describe what's going on right now, second wave, but don't worry, it'll all make sense the further that we get into this. Now, that being said as well, if you don't necessarily care about these newer teams and you're much more of like, I don't know, an NRG fan, trust me, what's happening with these new teams is affecting your team as well, and has already affected your team if you're an NRG fan. So, without any further ado, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this. And to understand the second wave, you kind of need to understand the first wave. The first wave is what we consider competitive Overwatch in an esport arena right now. That's going to be like Cloud9, Envious, all of these teams that we've kind of watched over the past year. Now, the way that these teams formed is people met over the beta and decided the fact that, hey, I kind of want to take this a little bit more seriously and play it a little bit more competitively, and they found other like-minded individuals and started making teams. They took these teams and played on things like the Gosu weekly events that were occurring at the time. Twitch kind of blew up with these things. Like, everybody was watching and was drawing a lot of attention, which naturally got the org's attention, going, hey, this could actually be an esport. Let's get involved right now and see what we can do out of it. We've already got teams that are lining up. Let's see what we can do, which is great because it gave us this phenomenal foundation that Overwatch esports has been built on. But it's kind of also peculiar because we had an entire esport occurring before most people had a chance to even touch the game. And while that's cool, it led to some really peculiar things. Because remember, this is the only watch era. So you had to be a professional gamer for another esport. You had to be a professional streamer. You had to know somebody that worked at Blizzard, or know somebody that knew somebody that worked at Blizzard, or you could pray to RN Jesus himself to descend upon you and bequeath you with a great gift that was getting access to the Overwatch beta, because that was really hard to come by at the time. Go back and check the Reddit threads. It's just like, oh, the Overwatch keys went out today. Salt. But anyway, what's happening right now is we're having the second wave of professional Overwatch teams hit, and naturally, these are going to be the players that started with launch instead of with beta. There's going to be guys that over the past 2 seasons have gone through and proven the fact that, hey, I know how to play this game. I do well in the ranked. I've improved stability and skills, and that's started getting a lot of orgs that didn't jump in on the first wave to now move in on the second wave and go, okay, you guys are doing really good. Let's see what you guys can do and try to move forward as an org with you. And they did all the exact same things that the first wave did. They just did it at a later time. And what's kind of weird is the fact that they kind of happened in 2 different environments that were the same environment. Because naturally, when Overwatch launched, there was the professional scene that was occurring. And then you had this second wave that was coming up back behind it, but the 2 didn't really touch. And it's not necessarily because of the fact that the first wave teams were avoiding the second wave teams or anything like that. It's just a very weird set of events that happened. You have to remember, whenever Overwatch first came out, everybody was super involved, and there's qualifiers for this event, qualifiers for that event, and so all of these qualifiers happened right at launch, and so we've been seeing all the events from them since then. Additionally, we also had the Overwatch World Cup that occurred, which wasn't even really a professional event. It was more like a show match where it was countries versus countries. So that really also ate up some time and some practices that happened inside of it. And so what's happening right now is we're having the first set of qualifiers for events that are occurring, where the second wave that's proved itself and has now got orgs backing it is now hitting in against the first wave. So we're getting actual true Overwatch fully fledged esports for the first time, really, if you think about it. This is the first time that the entire player base has now started to meet and play professional versus professionally, because it was almost like there was 2 different regions that were happening. There was beta professional, and then there was launch professional, just because timing on events and what was happening, and beta access. Now, what does this necessarily mean moving forward? Well, we've actually already started to see a lot of the impacts for it. First off, it's important to know growth is good. The more orgs that we get involved inside of Overwatch, the better. I mean, this is more potential viewers from other esports games, other esports brandings, all this, more teams, pretty much more beta. That's the easiest way to look at it. because the more spectators that we get in means the fact that the more the scene can grow, and that's what all of us that enjoy watching Overwatch esports should kind of like, is seeing growth inside of this. I mean, there's going to be a couple of people who's like, oh, well, this is the way that I like it, and I liked it back when it was Stopwatch, and it was this, and it was that, and we had two Zenyatas, and two Genjis, and two Winstons, and that was yeah, okay, we get that. Those guys can kind of go chill over there in the corner. But what you need to understand is the fact that growth is always going to be good for an esport. That more money means the fact that we get better chances for infrastructure. Now, it also means the fact that we're also going to start seeing a lot of swaps that are going to be happening. We've actually kind of already started seeing them happening. The example I was talking about with NRG earlier, we've actually seen Gods and Pooks. They have both gone over and switched to Kingdom, which was what started this whole conversation about the Congarna versus Kingdom on the Day 1 final for the Winter Premiere. Now, this is all fun. We're at a stage now where, if you think about it, most of these Wave 1 teams have been playing together for about a year now. They're going to have disputes about how they want to play Overwatch, about roles that they want to play, about how they see Overwatch being played, just basic personality disputes. These things happen. So we're going to start seeing a lot of roster swaps between some of this new blood in the second wave that's coming in, and some of the first wave that are just kind of wanting to spread their wings and maybe try different stuff. This is all perfectly fine. Now, another thing that we need to really pay attention to is orgs. This is a very peculiar point for a lot of the first wave orgs, because they've just come back from going to Korea, and they've seen what a lot of infrastructure can do. They just get back from Korea, and now they have all of these people that are kind of nipping on their heels, all these orgs that are coming in and like trying to come into their territory. This is where you have to use your money and experience that you have as an org to start really fleshing out infrastructure. Sure, the Overwatch League is really going to assist in this and the planning that they have for that, but like right now is the time to start. This is whenever we really need to start seeing coaches, and we really need to start seeing analysts really come into the scene and help orgs to help them maintain their place, because right now these newer teams lead into another point. We don't really know the standings per se. Haven't had a lot of these teams really hit against each other yet. Now, I'm willing to bet that they've probably scrimmed to some degree versus each other, and naturally they've played each other in some variants on rank. These players have encountered each other, but we as spectators, casters, all that other stuff, we haven't really seen these two groups really go toe to toe with each other yet. And NGE is kind of the first place we saw it. We saw it a little bit with Rise Nation during some of the Alienware monthly melee stuff, but we're starting to see more and more of these teams come in, because remember, right now a lot of the standings are based on what's been happening inside of the Overwatch professional scene, and these teams just haven't had access to it because they weren't part of the qualifiers. So they've been competing in a lot of the semi-pro events, which are great places. Like, those are places where I do a lot of casting at, and I firmly recommend, if you guys like the Gungarin and Kingdom matches, guess what? This isn't something new. These are matches that have been going on for a month. And so that leads to another point. We actually now know that we have a fully stabilized path from amateur to pro. It seems like we have the ability to have a functioning semi-pro area, we have functioning professional area, and players have a way to get from one to the other and to get orgs to notice them. And this is great. This is what we need to further grow the esport, because as time progresses, naturally players are going to drop out, people are going to get burnt out, things are going to happen. You have to constantly have new people coming in and taking those spots. Sure, the Overwatch League combines and stuff like that are going to be a part of that, but right now we already know that we have it in place. So anything that Blizzard's putting out just means the fact that it's just going to get better from here, and that's what we want. We want a stable path to pro, and that's what one of the big things that Blizzard's been talking about. So I just want to see how they expand it from here. If we're already seeing this path work, I'm really excited about it. Now, talking about the Overwatch League, speaking of further impacts, you can see this is a lot of stuff that's going down, guys. If you like some of these newer teams, they haven't had the same amount of time to deal with the Overwatch League stuff. Like, keep in mind, Cloud9, NRG, Envious, all of these guys have been dealing with Blizzard for quite a while about how Blizzard sees Overwatch League occurring and what localization technically means and how the combine's going to work. Some of these newer teams might not have had that same opportunity. And keep in mind, some of these teams aren't even signed yet. So they definitely have no idea what's going on. These are just guys that have put themselves together and have self-coached themselves and are sitting here, and they're now playing against huge organizations. So it's a really interesting time to be involved in watching Overwatch, because we don't. We're kind of at that point where we're moving from the Wild West into full fledged esport status. Because I know everybody likes to think like, oh, Overwatch has been an esport for a while now. Not really. If you think about it, the game's only actually been out for 6 months, and we're just now actually seeing people that bought it launch playing on a professional level. This is kind of where Overwatch esports seems to actually be starting at. If you wanted to look at from people that actually had full access, this is where it all starts at. And what we're going to be seeing is we're going to be seeing a lot more content people. We're going to start being seeing a lot more personalities, a lot more events, a lot more journalists. Hell, I'm technically second wave because I couldn't get into the beta. So if you guys are enjoying this style of content, I really hope that you guys subscribe. Give me a follow on Twitter. I've been trying to listen to your guys' requests, change the lighting so I'm a little bit easier to see. Pulled off the glasses to get rid of the glare, up the volume a little bit. Hope everything's working out. You guys are enjoying it. If you have any ideas on topics or if you just want to talk, I'm always down to have some conversation about what's going on inside of competitive Overwatch. And I really hope that you guys enjoy the content and make sure you keep an eye out for me on any of the things I'm casting. Hopefully talk to you guys soon.